what that process is like for people to reclassify their felonies to misdemeanors. And then we have some spaces to kind of shoot some questions, maybe specifically around that. And then Karma will join us and talk about DACA, right? So just briefly before we're going to dive right into it actually, and just invite Robert up here in a second. But I just want to give a quick credential. So I work for an organization called Faith and Community. And at Faith and Community, we do faith-based community organizing, connecting clergy and leaders to issues of justice here in our city. And worked on a gamut of issues. So if you've seen people walking neighborhoods in the evening, Pastor Timothy here at On Ramps has started a night walk here through this community as well. Faith Community has worked on night walks in different parts of the city, trying to do violence reduction. We worked on issues such as predatory payday lending and giving the city to pass an ordinance limiting the ability for payday lenders to be able to prey on low-income people. We worked on Proposition 47 to get that passed in the state of California. And in Fresno County, in our work around Prop 47, we talked to about 14,000 voters, and we actually got around 7,600 people to turn out to vote yes for Prop 47 in November. So that's why we're making sure we're following up on this end to make sure that we did not just get this piece passed, but that we're part of the process to make sure that it's implemented effectively. And so, so we work with around 20 congregations and in 2 institutions. One, the Humanities Department at Fresno State, and the other is FIRM, which works with Southeast Asian immigrant communities. And so, so without further ado, because I know my friend has to step in and do his thing and probably has to get going. So if I can invite Robert up from the Public Defender's Office, and if you can give him a round of applause as he comes forward. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, I'm not sure what everybody knows about Prop 47. I'm not sure exactly where to start here, but it applies to most 8109 non-serious offenses. Examples are one of the laws that it creates is a shoplift, a PC 459.5, basically an open a business that's open during normal working hours, where there's a larceny occurs, some type of a theft, that's $950 there's also forgeries, many forgeries, $950 or less, false checks, grand theft, $950 or less, receiving stolen property, also $950 or less, petty thefts with priors, simple possessions of narcotics such as methamphetamine or cocaine or heroin, including marijuana.
Well, thanks everyone. So in the beginning of the time, we're talking about Prop 47, and for this section of the time, we're going to be talking about deferred action for parents and also for youth. And so many times, right, we're thinking that these are separate issues. But I really want to talk about this as we're expanding the liberty of individuals through Prop 47 and through DAPA and DACA. So I came to the country when I was 4 and without documents. And I came, to a chain link fence, running through the desert, holding my father's hand. And even though I remember that day vividly, the other memory that I also remember vividly is receiving my green card. And being able to have that card in my hands and knowing the possibilities and the opportunity that meant. Okay? And so I really want you to know that that's what we're doing for thousands of people here in the Central Valley and here in Fresno for hundreds of people. Okay? Whether we're helping them file their applications or their petitions, or we're helping them submit their DAPA or DACA applications, what we're doing is expanding their freedom, giving them opportunities and possibilities. Okay, so I know that tonight we're talking about a lot of like technicalities and details, but underneath all of this is freedom. Okay, so let's just hang on into that as we struggle through a few of tonight's slides. Okay.
I got you.
Perfect. So all of these victories, whether it's Prop 47 or DAPA and DACA, it's about organizing, okay? No one gave us this proposition, and no one gave us Prop 47, and no one just gave us the announcement of deferred action, okay? We had to fight for it. And so I, besides just giving you the technicalities of what is DAPA and what is DACA, I want to tell you the story behind it. So the fight to win deferred action, which grants a few undocumented individuals permission to stay in the country, be able to work legally, and be protected from deportation. It actually started in 2010. And this was when a national bill called the DREAM Act was not passed in Congress. Okay, and this was primarily a movement led by youth, by young people. They were called themselves Dreamers. They took the name that the opposition was calling them, which was illegals, and instead they made something beautiful out of it. They called themselves Dreamers because the bill was called the DREAM Act. Okay, so they said we're dreamers, and created an identity around this. And so after the DREAM Act died in Congress, they said this isn't the end. And by a movement led by them, because by that point adults said, we're not going to win this, let's not waste our time. Instead they said, actually, if we can't get something passed by Congress, somebody else has the power to give us what we want, or at least a piece of protection. And that's the president. So they went to Obama and they said, you have the power to grant us work permits and protect us from deportation. And Obama kept saying, no, that's actually not legal. Like, I can't do that. And so they put pressure. They had a ton of marches. This is all youth. They had sit-ins, they got arrested, but they also got allies. They had 100 attorneys and law professors sign on to a letter that showed historically how the president actually had passed deferred actions in the past. Like Reagan did it, we did it from people from Haiti, and it's like, this is legal. And so, next slide. Yeah, and for Cubans. And so their chant was, yes, you can. Like, yes, Mr. President, you can. So that was the chant that they used in the rallies.
Is that true that John Lennon received the DACA bill?
Yes, John Lennon was the first individual in history to receive deferred action.
Who? John Lennon.
John Lennon from the Beatles. Oh, okay.
Yes. So when we say that there's like history behind this isn't new, right?
How come that's not
John Lennon.
How come that's not blasted out, man?
Right. We need to do better work messaging.
Yeah.
So on August 15th, 2012, we had the biggest victory around immigration reform from the past 20 years. Okay, and that was the date that they said certain young people that came into this country without documents can be protected from deportation, and they can get jobs legally. Okay, and in most states, get a driver's license. That was huge. That was a huge victory for our people, and it took 2 years. And I would just want to say it was led by young people, right? The adults didn't get on board until they pretty much saw it happening. Okay. So that was the biggest victory. But it does not give them a pathway to citizenship. And it's only good for 2 years.
Yes.
Okay? So this was only temporary. But it was a temporary victory that we needed in order to get momentum for a little bit more. So next slide. And so FIC, which is part of a national network named PICO, really it was our local individuals that said, if we're going to pass immigration reform, we can't be working individually across the state. We need to be able to come together. So for the first time, PICO as a national network came together and created what we call the Campaign for Citizenship. It was the first of its kind for us. And we launched it on January 2013. And that's where action started. It started with a period of trainings. We trained across the country 2,500 people to be experts and lead their communities. So what you're at today is what some of those trainings looked like. We picked the right people in the community and gave them a lot of training so that it wasn't organizers like Bryson or myself leading, but it was really people leading the strategy and the actions. We held vigils across the country between around April 2013, and had that culminated in large actions in DC. Here in California, we had individuals, we called it, what was it, the pilgrimage? Pilgrimage, that walked, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is before my time here, Sacramento to Bakersfield.
Yeah.
Okay.
65.
265 miles, so people walked that.
Yes.
We had 11 pilgrims to represent the 11 million people that this bill would affect.
Yes.
So we organized, right? We started in 2013, right after that victory. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get a bill. We did not pass immigration reform.
Again, died at the Congress. Again, died at the Congress.
Yes, Congress didn't get itself together.
Mr. David Nunez was so proud that he said, "It is dead."
Mhm. But what we know is that our people are resilient. We didn't stop there, okay? And so our second biggest victory happened on November 20th, 2014. That was last fall.
Yeah.
That was days after passing Proposition 47, okay? So our community had huge victories this fall. And what happened on November 20th, 2014, next, perfect, was that, okay, so first of all, okay, here's where the technicalities, start getting in. So first of all, let's make sure that individuals know that a bill was not passed through Congress, okay? This is not a law. That President Obama, we were able to pressure President Obama enough for him to do what's called, to announce an executive action on immigration, which basically means that the president is redirecting some of its resources to individuals that we might not want to have in the country, and allowing those that are. Oh,
We're good.
okay, cool. Can we go to the other one? Okay, but allowing individuals that are parents to either U.S. citizen children or legal permanent resident children to stay. Does that make sense? So if a parent doesn't have documents, but their child, they have a U.S. citizen child, or if their child has a green card, basically has permission to be here, that parent is now eligible to stay in the country. Okay.
That is similar to the 130, the family unification.
Can you say that again, Pastor?
The 130 is the family unification,
Yes.
similar to that.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was really the values behind this,
Okay.
right? We were having families being torn apart because a lot of the families here are mixed status families, which means that some of them were citizens, some of them had permission to be here, and some of them were undocumented. And so really the value underlying this is that families, like children and parents, should not be countries apart. They should be together. And the DACA, so DACA, which was announced 2 years previously, he expanded this, okay? Before it had an age cap, so essentially you could age out of DACA. So it was really just for young people. So now he expanded it so there was no age cap. It didn't matter how old you were, you could qualify. And I won't touch on this last one. And he also extended the program for 2 years to 3 years. Okay?
Starting when?
Oh, I'll get to that in a minute. That's a good question. Next. Okay, so this means that under DAPA, 4.4 million parents would qualify. Okay? And under the expanded DACA, it's 209,000 individuals. This was huge. This was a huge victory, okay? Because with DACA, I believe it was only, and Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like 1.5 million individuals?
That sounds high, but okay.
No help, no, okay, let's go. So when we look, okay, these are large numbers, right? Though that's across the country. But let's look at it here locally. So when we look at Fresno, that's your total population here, Fresno County. This is how many undocumented individuals live in Fresno County. 74,000, okay? Yep. So families that have to live with the fear of being deported or a family member being deported and they're never gonna see them again.
So the total population is 955,000?
For the county.
Okay, county.
Yep,
Yeah.
countywide, not city.
Silas Singer.
Okay.
And then that's total undocumented immigrants for the county. But we've realized that 11,000 of individuals here in Fresno County will qualify for DACA, okay? And 26,000 are going to be eligible for DACA. So that's 26,000 parents that can be protected through this program. The numbers are huge. Yeah.
And what-
Since 37 total.
Yep, 37,000 individuals.
So how did you came out with those numbers?
So these are numbers, they took census data, it's also the Immigrant Legal Resource Center from San Francisco.
Okay.
It's an organization whose acronym is MPI, which I am sorry, I don't know what that stands for. So yeah, it's
Migrant Policy
different types of data.
Institute. Migrant Policy Institute.
Migrant Policy Institute, thanks.
So would Madera, that wouldn't fit up, that's not on there anywhere else?
Nope. So I actually only have the counties included where we have organizations like FIC that are going to be helping with implementation work. But yeah, I can add, we have the numbers for Madera.
You
We
do?
can break those down. Yep, I can share those with you.
Okay.
So as you can see, like the information that I'm sharing with you today, it's 37,000 individuals that are affected here in Fresno County. So you know at least one person that's going to be affected by this.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so when we're thinking of DAPA and DACA, let's think through the benefits, right? These were a victory. So they're protected from deportation for 3 years, from being detained. They get a work authorization, so they can work legally. Now new employments are open to them. They get a social security number, driver's license. Well, here in California, you already got that. And they may request permission to travel abroad. So for many of our families, they come into the state, into the country, and then they're not able to go back and visit family or go back when their parents pass away. So if they're eligible for DAPA and DACA, they can apply to be able to travel. And even though they have to pay a fee and go through a different application process, it's now they're able to go home. Okay, so now we have some youth that applied for DACA, so they haven't been back home for 14 years, right? 14, 15, some of them 17 years. And now you can start seeing, these individuals that are able to go back home, and it's just, they just feel so blessed. It's
So would
life-changing.
Okay, when you say that they're able to go back home, these are people who really don't want to make the United States.
Sorry, I should say, they're able to go back home for a period of time
Okay.
and be able to come back into the country. Yeah, so to be able to go visit family members, visit their hometown, and then have permission to come back in.
The cases that many times they have father, mother dying. Remember, they are not able to go because if they go, they cannot come back. But with this, they're able to go for that.
So they're actually, what you're saying is they're able to return to their family of origin or country of origin
Yep.
rather than going back home, because aren't they trying to make the United States their home?
Yep, there you go. You're right.
Yeah.
So they're able
Yeah.
to go back to their country of
Yeah.
origin. And then
Emergency.
Okay, yeah,
Thanks, Pastor.
yeah.
These are the limitations. So it's not a green card and it's not a pathway to citizenship, right? So this is temporary. It's discretionary case by case. So the Department of Homeland Security has a lot of discretion, you know, in who's able to get this and who's not. Right now, USCIS, they've been really good. Actually, we don't have many people that have been turned away. But also, you know, when you don't have a policy or a law, right, it's discretionary by whoever happens to get your case.
Right.
That's not ideal. We want something in the books.
So it depends on the agent of the board,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
And so, you know, to go through what is DAPA, right? It stands for Deferred Action for Parents of U.S. Citizens and Permanent Residents. And what you have to, the qualifications is you have to be the parent of a U.S. citizen or permanent resident as of November 20th, 2014. So basically, your child needs to have been born on or before November 20th, 2014. Okay?
Cool.
Continuously resided in the U.S. since January 1st, 2010. Basically means that your place of residence has been within the United States. So it's not that you left back home, back to your country of origin, and is like stayed there for a year and then came back within 2010. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. And physically present in the U.S. on November 20th, 2014. And at the time that you're going to be requesting your petition. And no lawful status as of November 20th, 2014. So this means that as of that date, you didn't have a visa, you didn't have a green card, you didn't have any other type of
Document.
documentation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Next. Okay, so what if you have a criminal record or recent removal order? So,
How recent is recent?
I think at all. Well, recent removal order is as of November 20th, 2014. That will be recent. That's what they're considering recent. So anything after the announcement.
Okay, so if I have a guy that was removed,
Mm-hmm.
because they went to his house looking for somebody else, and they went like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning looking for someone else. They were looking for two other people, all right? They didn't know anything about him, but when they broke into the house and they didn't find who they were looking for, then they started questioning individual people, and they found this one brother, good brother too, that didn't have any paperwork. So they took it, and then they sent him back. This was in 2012.
And then he came back.
No, he's trying to come back.
Oh, so this.
So I just wrote a letter for him.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's
so
going to be hard. And
and
this.
he doesn't come under this?
No, this only. So when it says continuously recited, so that means that he needed to have been physically present in the U.S. 2014. Okay, no, which one? Oh, here we go. Continuously resided in the U.S. since January 1st, 2010. So that means that individuals need to have been in the country since like present until 2010. So anyone that has left the country does not qualify. Anyone that's not currently in the United States and has been in the United States since 2010 does not qualify.
But they made him leave 2012.
Yep. It doesn't, so that means he was deported. Yep, and so that he does not qualify. So whether it was a voluntary leave or he was deported.
The only reason why they deported him was because they were ticked off because of who they went there to go find. They
Yeah.
weren't there.
So we're going to see an increase of individuals being taken by ICE from their homes.
This was ICE who did this.
Yep. So along with, and this is, I think this will be part of the presentation, but, oh, perfect.
But,
Along with the good news comes bad news.
yeah.
So they are moving around the resources, and when I said they're moving around resources, not to deport these individuals, that means they have more resources to deport other individuals. And so they're using those resources to go to people's homes.
Because
And
they
that's
have
the tactic that they're
information.
doing.
because of what people want. So now because we have information about what you want, that means that there are probably others there that we can go in and do something
Yeah,
against.
and so this is an example, right?
So it's a
like they were
catch-22.
looking, yeah, they were looking for somebody else, but he happened to be there, and it's totally legal to take him, even though they weren't going into the home.
That's so evil, so they're gonna stick to what they've been trying to do and just doing it.
It's a catch-22. I said that in the very beginning when they first came up with some of this stuff, especially the DREAM Act. The DREAM Act was really a catch-22.
Well, and that's the one that didn't pass.
Yeah.
That's the one that died in 2010.
But any one of this is just a patch. It's not a solution.
Yeah,
Any one of
exactly.
this is a patch.
And so this is a patch, and we need to remember this is a patch that's going to benefit 5 million people. Okay, and honestly, it's our job to make sure that if we were able to gain this victory for 5 million people, that 5 million people are able to benefit from this. Okay, and we still need to fight the bad stuff.
Yes.
So the point of these forums, and is we need to, people are gonna be excited. They're gonna want information. Okay, right now, if you have a forum around DAPA or DACA, people's ears perk up. Okay, they know that it's a benefit and that it can potentially protect them from deportation. They're gonna come. Okay, and then from there, we need to educate them around, what is happening, what's ICE doing, the other part of the coin. And not just inform them, but give them opportunities to be part of the solution.
Uh,
Because that's where the real transformation will be.
We, right after that passed at our church, we had 2 forums, over 100 people.
Yeah.
And we were able to pass this card that says what are your rights when somebody asks you. So we were educated, and we need to do that again, because what happens is that they cannot force somebody to answer them. If they ask them, may I have your name? They can refuse to say their name. It's their right.
But if you refuse to say your name, aren't you going to get arrested?
No,
Well,
you cannot.
they can detain you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but then from being detained, like we can try and get people out.
Right.
It's when people don't, and sometimes you have to sign in order
Yes.
to be deported.
Right.
People don't know that they're essentially signing their ticket back home.
Right.
And so just educating people, if you're in ICE detention, don't sign anything.
Right.
They cannot make you sign anything.
Right.
And wait until a family member, someone from your church contacts
Yeah.
you. Because we have, because you are able to.
So actually, the brother, he didn't have to sign any paperwork.
Exactly.
So it was all intimidation and fear.
Right.
Oh, is that
And
what
that's
that is? Oh,
the
never
biggest
mind.
weapon
Take it back.
that they do,
It's
They use.
intimidation and fear.
because they make them sign.
Yeah.
Intimidation.
So once they sign legally, they have a document that says, you sign it.
Yeah, and so in the forums, we can go ahead and, inform people around that too.
Yeah.
Because these questions come up, and the more that people know, the more that they're gonna feel comfortable, even, in a way, just standing up, for themselves and their rights. So quickly, in regards to DACA, right, because one's DAPA, one's for the parents. For DACA, those that are eligible is they need to have entered the country before their 16th birthday and continuously resided since 2010, so lived here, this is their domicile. Have been present in the U.S. on June 15th, 2012. And that's the date because that was the first time that they announced DACA. And on every day since August 14th, 2012. This is when they began taking applications for DACA. So that's why the government says if you were eligible for this and you left, then you should not qualify for it. Okay?
How would they know?
If you left,
Yeah.
we'll go about that in a minute. And then no lawful status as of June 14th, 2012, so no visa and no anything. And have not been convicted of certain criminal offenses. We'll go into that a little bit because that's where the intersection of Prop 47 and this occurs. have graduated or obtained a certificate of completion. So basically high school diploma, GED, those are all the requirements. If someone has not completed high school or does not have a GED, they don't qualify. But as soon as they enroll in a GED program, then they qualify. Okay?
What about the one where they're saying if you go into the Coast Guard or to the military, does that qualifies for their parents to be able to stay?
Yes, but so right now, if you're undocumented, I know they passed a law. It's only for a very small amount of individuals, though. But right now, if you don't have documents, you can't serve in the Army. And I think now you can serve in the Coast Guard, but you could not be part of like Army, Navy, Marines, none of that. And we actually, I worked with Dreamers, so with undocumented youth that actually, they were in ROTC, they wanted to go into the Army, they wanted to serve this country, and basically they were saying, no, you can't, because you don't have any documents.
Okay, but those, because I just had a couple from the church that, where they presented her with, well, if you go into the Coast Guard and you do so many years, then, you can become a citizen after so long. Now, my question is with her having done that, with her getting that paperwork, will that fall back for her parents, for them to become documented or to be able to stay?
So individuals that are in the Army, right, whether they're citizens, they're legal permanent residents, and now undocumented individuals that might have a pathway to citizenship through the Coast Guard, they can petition for their parents. But depending on the country of origin, it depends how many years. Okay. The benefit is that President Obama last year said, so right now, if you're undocumented, and I come to the U.S., right, and I'm undocumented here, and I want to, there's a way for me to become legal, someone petitions me, you have to go back to your country of origin in order to finish filing all the paperwork. The problem is that as soon as you step back into your country of origin, a bar comes into effect that says you cannot come back into the country for 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And yeah, I know, it's crazy. And so that's why a lot of people don't want to go back, because they're going to trigger this bar. So if you're a citizen or a legal permanent resident that's part of the Army, Obama made the announcement, which was huge, right? Was that if you were petitioning for your parents could finish their paperwork in the United States. So that meant they didn't have to go back to their country of origin and trigger the 10-year bar. So that's a huge victory. So it means that the parent, their paperwork isn't going to be expedited. It might still take 7 or 13 years, but at least you can wait in the U.S. You can wait with your family.
Okay. So that's a window that's open for years to come.
Yes. And so I'm going to keep going and I forget where I was, but I already covered this slide. So just in case anyone asks, so what's the difference between the old DACA and the expanded DACA? The difference is that there's no age cap. So before, if you were born after June 16th, 1981, so if you were, I think, over 32 years of age, you didn't qualify. That's gone, okay? So no age cap. How long you must have lived to qualify? So before, you needed to have been here since 2007, and now you only need to be here since 2010. So that's how we were able to get more people into the program. And I mean, that's huge because we've done these DACA clinics, and we had individuals that had entered here, in 2008. And so they had barely missed the deadline, and now they qualify.
Yeah.
Also, the old DACA was only for 2 years, this one's for 3 years. And now they've added a criminal, national security, and public safety bar. So that's new. So this is where they're being more hard on individuals. And just keep in mind also that we have our criminal system for people that are citizens and that are legal permanent residents, and that we have a justice system that's different for immigrants. So, let's take an example. If you're a citizen or an LPR, right? In our courts, there's no such thing as like an aggravated misdemeanor. In immigration courts, we do have something that's called an aggravated misdemeanor. And if you have an aggravated misdemeanor, you will not qualify for many things. And that's why it's really it's for individuals that deal with the criminal justice system and with immigrants. It's good for us to know the difference, because something that you might not be going to jail for might get you deported.
Yeah.
So we'll skip these ones.
So
Okay,
they don't go to jail, but they are deported.
they are deported. Yep. And so, okay. Oh, and also, even if you did your sentence, they can still deport you. So when can I apply? So the application process is not yet opened. So this was passed, this was announced, not passed, this was announced in November. And it was supposed to, so the expanded DACA, they were supposed to start taking applications on February 19th. And for DAPA, they're supposed to start taking applications in May. So a few states didn't like this announcement. A few conservative states didn't. And so they are suing basically the government. They're saying that this isn't legal. So we know that we're going to win this because it is definitely legal. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to stall the program. Because the more confusion that there is, the more fear that people have, less people are going to apply. Okay, less people are going to benefit from this. And the more chaos that there is, they make our president look bad. Okay? So the same tactic that happened around healthcare. They're going to say, oh, he made an announcement, he passed policy, it's not solid, it's not a good policy. And so that's what's happening, but we're fighting it. And so we're hoping that at least by the end of the year, we'll be able to start taking in applications. And go ahead.
So, sorry, just a question about the applications. My understanding is that churches and organizations of faith are able to receive the training to help people to fill out the applications. Is that true?
So this is an initial training so that you all would have the knowledge to help educate people around it and help fill out applications. But we've been doing this now for about 2 years, and what we say is that we're dealing with people's lives and immigration history. And we're basically taking information from documented individuals and submitting it to the government. So we better make sure that it's right. So we say that no application should be submitted until they have been reviewed by an attorney. So we can have the training to fill out the application, to help put an application packet together, and then have an attorney review it. But nothing should be submitted until an attorney reviews it. And it's so important that we do that work, because you're going to see in a minute the extensive information that families need to collect. And so if we can do that and not the attorney, that's actually a benefit, because
Saves money.
Definitely, it saves money, and with 5 million people eligible, there's actually not enough attorneys
Right.
to take this on.
That's true.
And that's why the role of community organizations is huge. There's a lot of investment to be able to train organizations like ours to do this work, because we're needed.
And then the other thing is, are there going to be a list? I know that there already has formed a coalition here in Fresno of attorneys and organizations. Are they going to do pro bono work or not?
Yeah, so in the clinics, in a clinic setting, usually attorneys come and they don't charge, it's all pro bono.
Okay.
So we'll be in partnership so that our families, we can help them pull the paperwork together. If they want to go to a private attorney, it's going to be a lot more affordable. Or if they want to come to us, we can hook them up together with a pro bono attorney.
Okay. Great.
Perfect. And so you might be wondering, okay, so if they're not able to take applications until the end of the year potentially, why are we learning about this now? And that's because, okay, there's things that families can do right now that we need to inform them. So, you know, the form's not available yet, but we know that the fee to submit is going to be $465
Per
Okay.
individual?
per individual.
Wow.
So start thinking, right? It's like, what if both parents qualify, and what if they have a child that qualifies? I'm not good at math, but that's
That's
over
$1,500
$1,000.
bucks.
$100 right there.
Thank you. There you go.
Yeah,
And so we need to start getting to families now and helping them determine whether they qualify or not, because that's going to determine how much are they going to have to save. And we know that we don't have that much money.
And they're gonna have to pay for the live scan for their fingerprinting as
Mhm.
well on top of
Yeah,
that.
So it'll be about $500 a person.
But it is an additional, you know, that's, you know, for each one, so.
yeah, I know that because I worked a lot, they were consultants during the time of Reagan, that amnesty. They made lots of money on that. Consultants that they put up in their offices here at the Fulton Mall.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
80s.
oh yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
And I worked out because I want to help, but sometimes these owners, the only thing that they see is money. They're not there to serve, they're there to make money.
So, you know, we need to keep in mind that it's, if anyone tells anyone that you know that they can apply or that they can help them apply now, that's a lie.
Yeah,
And also to tell individuals that unless that person went to law school, they do not have the credentials to help you through this process, right? And that's what we say, it's like, we'll help you put your packets together, but you should either go to a private attorney or wait until we have a clinic and we'll have, you can come and see an attorney for free, okay? But in no way are we gonna, you know, just put people's packet together and send it off. We definitely want an attorney. And if you hear the word notarios, tell your people that they did not go to law school.
right.
They just, it's a notary.
A notary.
It's- And so we have, in the Latino community, we have a lot of notaries, right? That you pay $30, you get your stamp, right? And they're practicing law.
Mhm.
And that's actually how a lot of people submit petitions or submit paperwork, give their information to the government, and the notary knows that there's no way in heck they're gonna qualify for anything.
Yeah,
But they'll take your fee. It's a total scam.
yeah,
It actually puts you at more risk, actually. because
Yeah.
right.
Kind of outing yourself.
You're outing yourself, and then if,
Well, they're denied.
yep, and then the government, says, might say that, like, that you did fraud, because you petitioned for something that you don't qualify for, which would then make you ineligible for programs like this that you would qualify for.
Right.
And so, yeah, so that's why it's, you know, just for us to know this information is so valuable. Okay, so evidence, okay.
But, excuse me, what is BIA?
Oh, so, Board of Immigration Appeal. So it's basically, a board that's only in immigration law, and they are the ones that receive appeals. So someone that did not go to law school, if, they have been, like paralegals or have, been helping out, I guess, and been supervised under an attorney. If they attend, if they have like certain hours of like practice and take certain courses, so that means they didn't go to law school, they can be what's BIA accredited, which basically means the board says you know enough to not practice like any type of law, but you know enough to practice immigration law. So yeah, so that's something that that communities are doing right now, right? They can't afford law school, but they can afford to be BIA accredited, and they can help.
So my understanding is that training is provided in Washington, right?
Yes, and I think they actually have it here in California also.
Really?
Yeah, but you need to remember, it's not just the course. It's most importantly the hours that you've practiced
Right.
under an attorney.
Right. Great.
So it usually, I mean, it takes no less than a year, and then you have to have a lot of letters of recommendation. It's quite a process. Okay, this one I'll go through a little bit faster. So when I say that, I'm not talking, I've been talking about the application, the DAPA and the DACA application. But I've mentioned a few times that you're gonna need, that it's a packet, essentially. Because you're gonna have to prove every single thing that the government required you to qualify under. So you're gonna need to prove your identity. Okay, so individuals are gonna have to collect either a passport from a home country, an ID card from a home country, a birth certificate that needs to be translated, a school or military ID with a picture, or a U.S. immigration document with photo and name, okay? So maybe it's an expired visa. If you are wanting to qualify for DACA, you're gonna need to either come up with your high school diploma, if you're still in school, maybe it's your school transcripts, something saying that you're enrolled in school, a GED certificate, or an honorable discharge from the U.S. Armed Forces or Coast Guard. That's for DACA. For DAPA, okay, so this is a parent, you're going to have to prove that you have a U.S. citizen or an LPR child. So it's a birth certificate, copy of the green card of the child, naturalization certificate of the child. That basically means that the child is now a citizen but wasn't born in the country. Adopted decree of child if adopted, marriage certificate if stepchild. Okay, so this is huge. I just want to point this out. This is a victory.
Yes.
So, if we have families and the child is not theirs, but we know that it's like the child has either been adopted, right, or has gone through the adoption process, or is not considered like a child because it's a step parent, that counts as a child. Also, and this was the kicker too. So even if you had a child, right, but you might have not seen this child for the past 5 years, 3 years, whatever, that doesn't matter, that's still your child.
Yeah.
You can still benefit from that. So we had a few upset mothers around that, but that counts, that's your child.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
This guy that I keep talking about that was deported, where ICE went in, he was married to a U.S. citizen who has children who are U.S. citizens.
He would have qualified for this.
Okay, but does he still qualify even though they put him out April 3rd of 2012?
You would have had to continuously be here for it to apply to him.
Exactly.
Well, if he was married to a U.S. citizen, he probably could have gotten his paperwork together before he got deported. But he missed that boat, I would imagine.
Yeah. So as soon as he signed and as soon as he stepped foot into his country of origin, it's getting people back.
It takes a prayer
It takes a prayer.
and a
It's
miracle.
a miracle.
Well,
Actually,
we're believing for a miracle.
Amen.
Okay, and here's where a lot of the paperwork is gonna come in. So you need to prove continuous residence from 2010 until now. Okay, so that means you're gonna need a piece of paper that has the date and your name every 3 months. Does that make sense? Okay, yeah. So these packets, they're big, and this is where a lot of families struggle. So it can be rent receipts, rental agreements, utility bills, school records, military records, if they happen to be, which would be really hard. This is where our institutions can help. Records from a religious organization confirming participation in a religious ceremony.
Baptism, whatever.
There you go. Catechisms,
Bible studies.
all of that.
Yeah.
Yep. Bible studies.
Regular attendance to Bible study.
Mm-hmm.
So we can use this to say, see how important it is to attend church?
And the register,
Are you registered? Yeah.
Carmen, how would it affect people if I put the donation, if I write a check to the church every week, but my spouse doesn't, how would we work with that? Is it too soon to say?
So I would say, I mean, we have some experience with DACA, so I would say that as long as, one, your church keeps records, you know, those type of budgets that it says, I've been receiving a check of X person, you know, every month, then the spouse would have to write an affidavit saying, like, this individual is my husband or wife, right? And they've come with me to church every time that, I don't know, that I've given a donation. So we have to be creative, yeah, and that's a creative way that, you know, we could give it a shot. Money orders, you know, for money sent, you know, or out of the country.
Carmen, could it be like receipts, could it be the same thing every 3 months, or rent check every 3 months? Does it have to be a mix and match and anything?
No, it can be, so, so what we've seen work really well is, rent checks. It can even be like bank statements, right, because you get those monthly. It can be a
Yes.
phone bill,
Yeah.
doctor bills, your library card, your gym membership. What else? I mean, we used to have like a Blockbuster, right? So I can do, but not anymore.
Your Netflix account?
Bank checks, if they have.
Checks, yep.
It is gonna be rare that well, no, because if they don't have social security number, but they have the IRS number, and they have received checks with that number, they can present that.
That's true, okay. So, a lot of individuals don't have a social security number, so they might have been using somebody else's. So, we leave that as a last resort, right? Because we're basically giving evidence to the government that they've been using somebody else's
And
identity.
they can get hit with identity
Yeah.
fraud.
So far that hasn't happened. There's a firewall, right? The Department of Homeland Security is made up of ICE and USCIS. We like USCIS, right? They're our friend. They're the ones that help us through these processes, right? We want to be their partner. We want to be their ally, right?
Yeah.
They're good. ICE is the one that goes into people's homes
Yeah.
and deports them, right? Those are the people that we normally like organize against. And there is a firewall, and so most of the time, like, it hasn't happened. But we're saying you're giving this to the government regardless, and they're always going to have it. So we prefer you don't turn that in unless you definitely have to, unless you cannot find anything else.
I'm talking about not that they use the social security for somebody else, they use the number assigned by the IRS.
Preferably, if when we're talking about undocumented communities, I always encourage them to get them an ITIN number. It's basically a number that anyone can get, whether you have documents or not, and you can file taxes under that. And that's a way to like cover your budget if you're not.
Taxation with no representation.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And so, okay, so this is where the majority of the documents are going to come from, okay? Because they're going to need, from 2010, one document to prove every 3 months. Because that's what continuous means, right? They want to make sure that you were here and that you never left. Criminal history, right? If you've had contact with the law, go ahead and pull that up now so that you know. And automatic disqualifications, felonies, serious misdemeanors, which basically means like you can kind of guess if they spent 90 days or more in jail, that's probably a serious misdemeanor. Domestic violence, drug trafficking, gun possession, or 2 or more misdemeanors. You won't be able to qualify, okay? I'm not an attorney, so these are broad. Whenever anybody has any type of criminal record, we go ahead and we tell them that they need to consult an attorney, like definitely. But all felonies, this is where Proposition 47 comes in. Because Proposition 47 is reclassifying felonies to misdemeanors. Okay? So this means that there's individuals right now in California that don't have documents, that could qualify for either DAPA or DACA. But right now, because they have a felony, they don't. As soon as they reclassify their felony to a misdemeanor, they become eligible for DACA. Okay? And so that's where our intersection of our issues comes in. So whenever we're talking about DAPA and DACA, we need to bring up Prop 47.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So the miracle is happening to a brother that even married to an American citizen, but because of his record, he has not been able to get paid.
There you go. And so he needs to see if Prop 47, if he qualifies under it. There you go.
Amen.
Can I just try out a narrative and see if it makes sense? If we, like, so, you know, we think about how this fits in, like, pushing forward to, like, how do we continue getting what we really want if this is just like a 2 or 3 year Band-Aid on some way or another? Like, and I think about, you know, what the Dreamers did in 2010, and then finally winning in 2012, and then how our work, your work in 2013 with the pilgrimage for citizenship, right, and all the work that was going on, going to McCarthy, going to Valadeo, going to Nunez, like that was the closest we ever came to winning immigration reform. It passed the Senate and flirted with passing in the House. It was the closest we've ever come, right?
Yeah.
So now it's a question of how do we use this, and the opposition is trying to stall us, stagnate us, dispirit us. How do we, I think the priority is like, how do we continue energizing people and continue to, the only reason that we almost won was because we voted and we organized and we came together and built this pressure, and how do we view this as an opportunity to continue that? It seems kind of obvious, but I think with our people, we need to like continue to like build this narrative that's building momentum and building inevitability to winning the big fight. How does that sound?
Yeah, so I think it sounds good. I mean, I went to Washington. I talked to Devin. I pray for the guy. And people here, friends, says, it's futile. You didn't get anything. And in a way, I start feeling discouraged because I spent time and all of this and went over there and for nothing. But yet, when we look at the process, every little thing, every step you win, everything that you move forward, even if it's a little bit, even if it's a patch, even if it's something, but it's moving forward
Yeah.
and gaining ground in a way, right?
And I just want to lift up something that, you know, that Thomas just lifted. So when we say that there's 26,000 individuals, right? That means that we have 26,000 households that know of a citizen or a legal permanent resident child that can become a citizen, right? That knows what it's like growing up with an immigrant parent, right? What it means to live in a house where they, like ICE can just come into their house and take their parent away.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is definitely long term. That's what, 26,000 voters that will not support individuals that don't support their parents. Okay, and so in these forums, it's like we're trying to reach those parents, those undocumented individuals that qualify. But heck, I'm sure they're bringing their children along to this. I'm sure that they're bringing other family members, right, that are citizens. And so in a way thinking, you know, like, are people willing to, I don't know, to sign like a pledge card, so, you know, saying like, I'm a citizen and I commit, you know, like I commit to like protecting like the undocumented community, you know, things like that. Because that, I mean, that's I don't know if that's what you were getting at, but you know, like that's a form of power.
I'm terrible at math, so what percentage of that 955,000 total population of Fresno County are undocumented immigrants, and then from that, what percentage adopted DACA?
7%.
Yeah.
7%.
Yeah.
See, I knew there was a math wizard or something like that too.
Glad you guys got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things is that, I mean, because one of the things that I saw when I went to Washington is most of us that were there were Latinos or were people affected by all of this. So I thought, this is not working. What we need to convince is the people that they vote. The people that are not here. I mean, the black folk, the white folk, the people that are citizens, that they vote. We need to have this conversation with them and tell them, hey, you have the power to help these people to change the way. So, you know,
And I think that's what's powerful about the intersection of 47 and immigration reform, is that in that space is the bringing together two communities around issues that are affecting both of us.
so the next step,
Both sides, both ends are affected.
right, the next step would be to do some training similar to what we did at the well, but on this issue.
Yeah. I like the way Pastor Jonathan thinks, man. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, right after the training, Pastor Brad Bell asked me if I would be interviewing one of the people that interviewed, and he asked me questions about immigration reform. So some, because we need to have those conversations with them, because they have a lot of myths that they believe. That's not true.
Yeah, you're talking about immigration reform or 47 in that context at the well in that particular part of the city, or where citizens or people who live over there are really going against these narratives.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right,
So that's
right.
a real point of
Right,
right there.
right.
Yeah, I agree, but I'd also say, you know, the majority of people in Fresno, what's the demographic percentage of Fresno? The majority are
Latinos.
plurality are Latinos, right? And it's pretty close with, if you look at the voting percentages too. I mean, Latinos have a lot of voting power that isn't on the table, that's not being
Yeah.
exercised. So I think it's a
Yeah.
both and. How do we increase voting
Yes,
participation in
yes,
communities of
yeah,
color,
yeah.
low-income communities? That's
Yeah.
gonna move this forward as well.
Yeah, to where we don't have to rely on what folks might think about it, but you mobilize, you know what I'm saying, our folks out south of Fresno, generally speaking.
But we find, probably you know, we find that the worst enemies of this are the descendants of Latinos. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them.
Yeah.
That was it. That was
Common
it.
round of applause.
That was it? All right.